with tremendous excitement that I bring our company controller, Ken Fetzer, to the stage. He's going to be talking about W-2s. Yeah, come on, guys. Let's hear it. Definitely going to be some of the best graphics of the day.
Hello? Can you hear me? Thank you guys so much for sitting through this. This is the last part of content, so we're going to knock it out. And we really appreciate your focus and everything. I did want to quickly say one thing about Claire's presentation with getting in the zone. I've been kind of doing some mindfulness practicing for the past few years. And one thing, if you do want to try to get into it, at the beginning, it's really easy to want the results right away. So like when I first started, I would try to quiet for 10 minutes. And then, if I was stressed out, I'd go be quiet for 10 minutes. And then I'd expect to just feel better right away. But I've learned over the past few years that you get really, really good results if you can do a little bit each day. So you'll feel the effects, hours, even days after you do some practices. So just something that that I really liked hearing from Claire. So, and then the other thing I wanted to say, because John was saving his thanks for next Thursday, but we all wanted to thank Andy and Kevin and Jordan and Angie and everybody involved with putting this seminar on. It's a lot of work. They set up this AV equipment like yesterday. We got brand new stuff in. It was a lot of work. So thank you guys so much for putting it on seamlessly. So the future is now. Why is the future now? Because the big thing that I'm going to talk about is paperless W-2s. No paper, no problem. And as the name sounds, your employees can opt out of paper W-2. So if they check a button, it flags a setting in our system and we don't print a paper W-2. Instead, they log on to their employee self-service portal and they can download their W-2. So real quick, some highlights. Basically, the way it works is when your employees log into their ESS portal, how many people are using ESS? Okay, not everybody, but almost everybody. If you're not on ESS and you want to get this set up, that's fine. And so the way that it works is that the first time your employee logs in, they're going to get greeted with a message. That message is actually that. It says electronic delivery of tax forms, and at the bottom it says I accept or I decline. If they click I accept, then that flags our system to not print a paper W-2. So that's basically how this procedure works. And, ooh, cool. Each employee must consent. So the IRS is very adamant that you can't just flip the switch for the whole company and just say, we're not printing paper W-2s. Every employee needs to read this verbiage and accept to it. The highlight is that the setting saves for future years. So we rolled this out last year. If your employees accepted last year, they don't have to go back and do it again. They're good for this year and going forward. One thing that's very smart is that terminated employees, as soon as you terminate the employee, it automatically switches them to paper because you don't want to be tracking down, somebody that moved across the country, you deleted their email, it'd be a mess. So terminated employees get paper W-2s. There is an inactive status. So there's 3 statuses that an employee can be in iSolved: active, inactive, and terminated. Active and inactive can get electronic W-2s, but once you go to terminated, then they're getting paper. And then I use W-2s just for simplicity, but it does apply to 1099s and Frank's 1095s. So they're all, when you flip the switch, it flips it for all. Again, this is the message that they see when they first log in. We can actually quit that. One thing to know is that if you're trying to get your employees to consent, they need to do so before the last payroll of the year is processed. So if they are flipping the switch in mid-January, it's not going to do anything. that will save it for next year. But as far as this year, they need to get in and consent to that before the last payroll of the year. So we have a website page dedicated specifically to this topic. It goes over everything that we're going to talk about today and more. It's got some frequently asked questions. And the one big thing that it has is sample emails that you can send out to your workforce, because we can't send an email blast out to all your employees. Only you guys can do that. So we've created kind of a sample email that explains to them what it is, what they can expect, and that way, you know, you can communicate to them very easily. You don't have to explain to everybody. We've created an easy template. And those sample emails are on this webpage. This webpage can be accessed through your quick links when you first log in, and we're going to make it available on like DominionPayroll.com. So you guys as admin can run a report to see which employees have consented to this. So if you have 100 people, you run this report, you've got only 5 people that haven't done it. You can go to those 5 people and say, hey, you know, can you do this? You know, it would be great. So that's under client reports, and it's called the Electronic Tax Form Delivery Status Report. And just to show you what it's going to look like, it is an Excel spreadsheet that pops up. And the first column says year-end delivery consent date. So if you see this column and the employee is not terminated, then you know that they are not getting a paper W-2. So it's a really quick and easy overview to see which employees have done this. And again, that's in client reports, electronic tax form delivery status. So this is a big thing that we're expecting, and this is in that sample email, because an employee might have logged into their ESS portal months ago and they don't remember what they chose, because that message pops up. You know, they're just trying to get through to the next screen. They don't know. So they can actually go in right now. On the top left, they click on this little drop-down menu, and there's electronic delivery tax forms. So if they click on that, let's see what happens. So if they originally clicked accept, it just tells them that. It says, hey, you've accepted, you're getting electronic W-2s, you're good to go. If they originally clicked decline, it brings that original message back up, so then they can accept at that point. So if they originally clicked decline, all by themselves, they can log in and change their setting. However, if they originally clicked accept and now they want to change their mind for whatever reason, this is probably a pretty rare situation, but if they originally consented and now they want a paper W-2 for whatever reason, unfortunately, that is when you guys have to get involved. They cannot do that themselves. They contact you and they say, hey, I want to remove my consent, and you guys will go into their employee maintenance screen, and in the field year-end consent withdrawn, you'll just put the date, and that will withdraw their consent. So again, if they originally clicked decline and now they want to accept, they can do that themselves. If they originally clicked accept and now they want to back out of it and get a paper, they're going to need to contact you. So a little break in the content for some Thanksgiving conversation topics. Some fun facts is that ancient pay stubs in Egypt and Mesopotamia used to be paid in beer and other commodities. And we have a kegerator in the back, so I don't know if they took a page out of the playbook. The first minimum wage was set in 1938 at 25 cents. So we'll be thankful that it's 2018. And the largest employer in the US is Walmart. I did not know that. And a distant, very distant second is the Army with 760,000. So that's pretty significant that they're leading the field by quite a bit. All right, so Thanksgiving, check. December 28th, as David Hassick mentioned, is the last day to process your 2018 payrolls. That is a Friday. The 31st is a Monday. So the 31st is a Monday, so we like you to process, in advance as possible, but we'll let you process through the end of that week. That would be ideal. This is a big date right here, January 7th, because this is when our paper W2 packages go out, and it's also when we make the employee self-service W2s available for the employees. And this is in the sample email, but basically what's going to happen is the employee gets an email and it says, hey, your W2 is now available for download. So on the 7th, that will prompt them to go in and log in and get their W2. We do have, so this is one of the earliest times we've put this date. We can change it on the client level. So if you don't feel comfortable letting them have it that early, then we can change it for your company. So if you want to double check or you're waiting on some fringe benefits, whatever, we can change and push that back. But we found last year that some people were getting their paper to W2s before the people that chose electronic could access it. So they were kind of upset that the people that got paper could see it before they could. 25th is, you'll definitely have your paper W2 package before that date. And then everybody knows W2s need to get to your employees at least postmarked by the 31st. Real quick, this is an awesome new website that Andy created for us. It's basically useful if you hire an employee in a new state, because what it does, it has an interactive map of the United States, and you can hover over whatever state and then click on it, and it brings you up the tax account registration links and also the exemption forms, like the VA4, but for some other state. So this is a really cool, very useful for us website that Andy was able to get up. And so to find that, this is our homepage. So resources, forms, or just go right to dominionpayroll.com/forms. So it's very handy if you are thinking about hiring somebody in DC or North Carolina, so, new territory. The other thing I quickly wanted to mention is now is kind of the time that the tax agencies send letters out informing companies of any changes to their 2019 tax accounts. So for example, unemployment rates, deposit frequencies, and just want you guys to be on the lookout for those, and you can scan those into tax@dominionpayroll.com, because keeping your accounts up to date is #1 priority. The tax changes as far as Social Security wage base going up to $132,900 this coming year. 401k contribution limits are going up to $19,000. Catch-up stays the same. And IRA contribution limits, it's been at $5,500 for quite a while, and it's actually going up to $6,000 in 2019. Social Security and Medicare are the same, 6.2% for employee and employer. Medicare is 1.45%. For employees, once they hit $200,000 for Medicare, they have to pay an additional 0.9%. That does not apply to the employer portion. So if you have some high earners and you're looking on your payroll summary and you see that your employee Medicare wages are higher than your employer Medicare wages, this could be an explanation for that. Don't panic. we'll go into some more Thanksgiving conversation real quick. In Sweden, parents are entitled to 480 days paid of parental leave. It's pretty cool. And each parent is entitled to 90 of those days. In Germany, you can't go to church unless you pay the church tax. That's deducted out of payroll. And they also want to know your religion on your employment forms. It's a required field, which is kind of crazy. And this last fact is actually pretty interesting with our facial hair fundraiser, because in the 17th century, Peter the Great had a beard tax. Andy and I were talking about this yesterday, and if you paid the beard tax, then if you paid it, they give you a medallion that you put around your neck. And so when they ask you if you paid the tax, you lift up your beard and they see your medallion. And if you don't have that medallion, they just hack off your beard on the spot. So I asked to see Andy's medallion yesterday. And that led into another conversation that was... This is the last thing we're going to talk about real quick, is the work opportunity tax credit. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically a federal tax credit that there's a few targeted groups that have some barriers to employment. There's actually a lot of targeted groups, but the big ones are qualified veterans, Title IV recipients, ex-felons, food stamp recipients, and they all have kind of little qualifications under each targeted group. But if you have any employees that might qualify for any of these groups, then what you do is you have them fill out an 8850, and that 8850 is basically a form that asks them the questions that will figure out if they're a targeted group or not. So most of our clients that do this have the employees just fill out the paper form. We do have the ability in employee self-service to turn on a WOTC switch, and it will lead them through the questions on this form. So right on employee self-service, it will tell us if they are one of these WOTC groups, and that the company is eligible for the credit. And then what we can also do for you is we can give you, because there's certain criteria, like the longer that the employee works for you, the more credit they give you. So we can keep track of all these calculations that the employee is making and figure out how much credit you're eligible for at the end of the year. And we can give you the information to go on this tax form. This tax form is what you submit with your corporate tax return, and that general business credit form, it attaches to that. So we can help you get the numbers for that. And I think that is all I have to say.